Assalamu alaikum. I'm Dr. Faryal Razzaq, and we are here with our episode number 24 25 with Listen to Experts. Today, we're very happy and we are very honored that Adil Ali is a very renowned psychologist. He has done a phenomenal work on prison, and he is also the founder of Mahir-e-Nafsiyat. He does a lot of philanthropic and a lot of wonderful work. So we're very pleased to have him here. Without much ado, I would like Mr. Adil के कहीं ऐसा ना हो कि मैं justice ना कर सकूं for all the wonderful work that he is doing, and I'm in awe of what he does. I mean, his work is, I mean, I keep following him. So Adil Saab, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for all the glitches that there were, and we were a bit late to start with. Thank you to join us, and first of all, please tell us your journey, how you started this journey, and then the prison work and all the accomplishments and the wonderful things that you had been doing.
So, my name is Adil Ali. As you have mentioned, I'm a psychologist. So, I think my journey being a psychologist, I think it started like about a decade ago when actually my father suffered from some kind of mental health issues. And I think that was the time I thought that I should study this domain and learn more about it, that how actually people who struggle with mental illness, how they can seek better treatment, and how what can I do, like in my capacity, to support such people. So I think this is where it all started, and I studied psychology. I'm a gold medalist in the field. I did my bachelor's, and then I also did my master's. I was practicing as a clinical psychologist up until 2018, but then I got an opportunity to work at a prison for the prisons department in Punjab, and fortunately accepted the position, and I was posted at the Miawali jail for about 1.5 years, and then I recently, like about 2 years ago, I came to Adiala jail in Rawalpindi. So I've been
Mashallah.
working with, yeah.
So how was this journey, from seeing just the patients and to the criminals? I mean, it must have been a difficult transition for you as well.
Yeah, it was actually it was a challenging transition, and a very much learning experience. I actually love every bit of it because of the opportunity I had in this domain, and I think because people have died, like not there have been like no psychologists in prison, so I'm part of the pioneer batch of psychologists inside the prison. So I think that's the opportunity that I could see, and I think since there was no research done and no rehabilitation programs already running inside the prisons, and I think so we had like big shoes to cover when we used to see those models followed in US, UK, and Australia. So I think we had those models online and we could review them, but I think we had this opportunity to implement all of those good things that were happening in the West to local prisons in Pakistan. So I think that's what fascinated me, and I think we've been trying our best to like do that.
Absolutely amazing work and all that, because we have a lot of misconception. I mean, these criminals, I mean, are they people like us, or they're from another planet? I mean, what differentiate a criminal from a normal person actually? Can't you
So
see? Okay.
I had actually the pretty similar question. So when like I started off working with in the prison setting, and fortunately or unfortunately, I was posted at the most dangerous prisons in Punjab, the Miawali jail. So I was there. I thought that this is a different world where I am right now, and this doesn't happen in the city where I live, like Rawalpindi, Islamabad, and I can't even imagine such things are happening there. So this was what I had because I'd never been to a police station, by the way, before until I joined the Miawali jail. So it has been like one heck of an experience, like right away with working with the hardcore criminals. So I think that was the time I thought that it's only happening like in this part of the world and not like in my city. But when I came here, and I think even when I was posted in Miawali jail, when I learned more about the criminal behavior, I understood that it's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's in our cities. It's in our like localities, like in our neighborhoods. So it's happening everywhere. But since we like, it's the kind of the kind of shelter that you have, the kind of support system that you have, that where you live in, and that actually decide what kind of people you're going to interact with. So we may not have gotten the chance to fortunately interact with such people, but they are everywhere, like in all. So we see that mass killing happening in the US as well. So in the Western countries where there is a lot of better security equipment and everything is there, but they do have a lot of crime rate. So it's everywhere. It's a global problem, and I think in our neighborhoods as well, we see it happening every now and then now.
So, coming to the today's topic, and that's aggression and how aggression leads to these criminal behavior. We want to understand the psychology of. So, what? How would you define aggression, and what aggression is? What is the psychology of aggression actually?
So aggression is basically any kind of behavior which results in physical or psychological harm to anyone. So like if someone like engages in any kind of behavior which results in any kind of physical or psychological harm to someone, that is aggression. Anger, like it all starts from anger. Anger is an emotion, right? Anger is an emotion. We can get angry, and anyone can angry at some point in their day and their life, right? But when that anger converts into an aggressive behavior which results in physical or psychological harm to someone else, that is aggression basically. And it can take any form, like it could be simple, it could be simple and anger outburst, right? Even kids throw temper tantrums, right? And so that is, I think, is the most like minor form of aggression. But then we have people like who commit homicides and sexual violence and all kinds of heinous crimes. So that, I think, the whole thing is aggression. And but the intensity obviously varies, and depending upon the coping strategies and like how people are able to manage their anger. I think that is how that decides how much like damage can be done with it.
So, can we safely say that if you do not manage your anger, the progression of it leads to aggression, and the progression of anger, if you do not have a right set of tools and strategies in place, could lead to homicide? My father would say that don't hate the criminal but hate the crime, because these are people who just were swept away, from, in the spur of the moment. They could not control their intense emotions or intense aggressive needs and, controlling behavior, and they acted in a very, 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 very negative way. So how would you say about that?
Well, I would completely agree with him. I think that when I come across some people who have like spent their lives, like 25 years of their life inside a prison, and when I ask them what happened like at the day of incident, so they tell me that it was just a few seconds when we lost our temper and we like pushed that trigger, which resulted us being here in the prison and having to spend 25 years here now. So I think that's a huge punishment for just those few seconds when they could not overcome their anger, they could not control it. So I think it's all about managing ourselves and not causing any significant damage to anyone that could also lend you that person in trouble himself as well. So I think that is the whole cycle, that if we cannot control our anger, it can actually have a devastating side effects like this.
Since you have been working with, have seen the other side of the, the maximum, the spectrum of those aggression and how it leads to homicide, when is there, what are, the actual signs that you know that now it's the time to stop? I mean, how can you tell our viewers that what is okay and what is not okay? I mean, what is the time when you should be seeking help if your anger is out of control, your aggressive behavior is, having havoc in your family, your friends, or your colleagues or co-workers, and people are scared of you? When is the time to seek actually help? Because that's a mental disease. So, what would you say about that, please?
So first of all, I think that this anger, it's something that we are born with. So, right, it's something that's innate. We have this instinctual endowment and a desire of getting aggressive. This is something that's part of us. So now, next thing is that everyone gets angry. Everyone has this aggressive, hormones and aggressive tendencies biologically as well. So. now, so once, if anything, like is any social event or any kind of a family issue or any kind of stress that is ongoing in the life of any person, that can make anyone irritable generally. So we can see people getting irritable, like someone who was very kind hearted, very, very smiling all the time, but now that person is more irritable and not engaging in conversations, and would throw a temper tantrum and would react very abruptly, that we would normally not expect from that person. So I think that those are the signs, and we actually, these are the signs that can be identified by family as well. Like people who live close to that person can easily tell that, okay, you were like you were more, you're more, better person, you used to manage your anger better, and you never threw such kind of a temper tantrum before. So what's going on? So I think this is the conversation that needs to happen in every home, that what is going on, what is it that is triggering this response. So I think if all can, like in our homes, can have this conversation more, so we can get the person who is actually getting more irritable. Maybe it's some sort of a work stress, maybe it's some sort of anything else is bothering that person. So it can, even the children can engage in such behavior, and even the adults can engage in such behavior. So anyone who sort of anyway, if the family notices that anyone is doing it, that must be identified and that must be discussed with the person. Because if we usually do not have such conversations, and as I was discussing with you offline as well, that it's also part of it is also cultural. The like in the city of Miyawali, I know that people have like kept guns with them, like at their homes. It's very easily accessible to children, right? So whenever they get angry, it's the natural response, like take out that gun and pull the trigger, right? So it has also to do with having access to that weapon, right? So if the gun wasn't there in the first place, so we could have like decreased the violence, but they may have used some other object as well. So but still I think that there should be limited access to such things that can be dangerous, and especially to children and people who are underage, like below 18, and who people who have issues with managing their anger, right? And so because whenever they're vulnerable in a situation, they would throw a temper tantrum, and the worst form of it could be like with a gun or with a violent object, right? So the access should be blocked, and I think cultural as well, because people like in that part of the world, like in Mia Valley, I saw that there are families who have like their enmities going on, and problems going on between families for hundreds of years, and every now and then a person would die because of that. So I think it's cultural as well, but at the same time we should make sure that these weapons are not easily accessible to everyone.
Absolutely. I mean, I think this is part of a power control as well, because you feel more powerful. You are respected in a society if people fear you. I mean, that kind of a perception exists, in remote part of our country, that you are seen to be more macho man. If you're displaying
Yeah, so
this is kind.
psychologically, yeah,
Yeah.
psychologically, it's basically intrinsically motivating for that person, because that if a person who is like suffering from some sort of an inferiority complex, that person knows that if he or she takes out that gun and points it to the other person, that the other person gets scared and start maybe but that person feels dominant. So I think that need, where if it is like suppressed in some sort of experience as a child, so that can come out there, right? So and if that person sees that, okay, this is the only way for me to get attention and get the things done that I really want to. So this is why people like abuse their power that they have. And we have also seen, like and in fact with research, is that people who get sexually like abused as children, they are more likely to get indulged in sexual violence as adults, right? So people who have had some sort of experiences, it comes back at some point in time, because they have experienced that they've been remained a victim, and now when they are in power, when they feel in power, they want to abuse that power and torture someone else as well, just out of revenge. So we see
That's
these examples as well.
That's a very important thing that you have just mentioned, that if something bad has happened to you, if you have been sexually exploited or other form of abuse that you have, there are so many levels of and types of abuse as well. So these are the unresolved traumas that they had been carrying, and they want some validation, some control over them, or maybe for their own validation that no, we are powerful, we are not that. So that's absolutely an important thing. And culturally, the taboos around emotions and about these talks, that aggression is bad for you, it's not a show of power, it's not good. I mean, we need to create, because we have romanticized this image of men carrying gun. So we need to make it at least look bad. So tell me one thing about it: is anger always bad?
Not necessarily. Actually, anger is also the drive that actually gives us the reason to work something. So, like exactly like the stress. Stress is not always bad. Like if there is no stress and if there was no anger, so how would we protect our boundaries, right? Like as a country, how would we defend ourselves? Why would we defend ourselves if there was no anger, if there was no rage, and if there was no sense of security? Because if someone like violates your boundary, everyone should be able to defend. But as a society, when we live in a civilized society, we have departments who take care of this responsibility. We have police who is there like to facilitate that, and not everyone needs to carry a gun. But when we are a policeman and we are working as a soldier on the border, then you must have that anger and aggression if you really want to protect your country. So that is how you channelize it. That's how you actually use the anger and aggression. So, and also I think it drives us every day. This testosterone level, right? That bump, actually it actually helps people to keep going every day. And I think it's very important in our usual life, in our positive life as well.
So another thing, a lot of people, especially I've been in academic, and a lot of people and friends who have adolescent kids, especially male kids. I mean, they are like embodiment of angry young men. I mean, I don't know why is that, and they detach themselves from their parents, and they're more likely to show that they are man enough and to do reckless behaviors. So how would you say to channelize their aggression and anger so they don't do this self harm or do something which they'll regret for the rest of their lives actually?
So I think it also has to do with our culture. Like we tend to have like for a boy to be raised in our part of the world. I think he has different set of expectations. He's expected to be aggressive. He's expected to like show that he's a man. Like so that I think that has a role, that masculinity part, right? So that has a role in this behavior as well, because that person is already carrying the burden of that of being that figure who cannot have like who cannot be weak, who cannot be cannot cry, right? So all of these things, I think they actually contribute to it. But then I can never underestimate the power of biological things, because people who have like personality issues, maybe I see a lot of people with borderline personality, they would cut themselves regularly. I think if any parent sees a child like doing that, or engaging in any kind of risk taking behavior or drugs, right, that the person that parent needs to seek help for that child immediately. I think that's time for professional help right away, because if a child is engaging in that, I think there is no point in like waiting. That kid needs help.
Absolutely. I mean, therapy, seeking therapy is such a big taboo in Pakistan that if even your own family members would start labeling you as pagal hai, I mean, he's insane, and the society will start marginalizing you just because you're seeking help, and that is a very normal thing to do. So, what should those people, I mean, those teens that has that already going through these disruptive behaviors, and they're self-harming, and then there's a society pressure if they seek help, because they cannot seek help because everybody is going to ridicule them more. So how can we mitigate this thing and encourage people towards more therapy and towards knowing, and especially this teenage boys, because most of the psychological issues starts at this age, 15 to 25 is most of the psychological issues starts at this age. So how what steps we can do, and especially the parents who really have no idea, no clue how to even communicate with their children. I mean, how can they do that?
I think it will take like a while for us to like reach at that level where we normalize treatment for any kind of mental health issues. But I think the beginning steps could be like since COVID started, we started offering online counseling, online psychotherapy. So I think this was a huge breakthrough because people who were like sitting at their home, especially females who cannot come out of their home and visit a psychologist's office, now they can access it online, like from the comfort of their house. So I think tele mental health has made this possible, and I think it's a great huge breakthrough. Plus I think as a society, we need to like have more focus towards mental health because it is often neglected. Like I was reading the other day, this Sehat Insaf card, right? It covers like a lot of illnesses, it covers surgeries, inpatient, but it does not cover inpatient mental health, which is very alarming and very I kept wondering why. Because there are people who have like addiction issues, and they every now and then would need help. And there are also people who have like the severe mental health issues, and they also need like inpatient treatment. How would they cover it? And if the state does not cover it, it becomes very difficult to afford in a country like Pakistan. So I think that is the challenge that is there. But I think that there are private organizations who are supporting it, and I think there are every one of us is like doing their bit within their capacity, and I think that is something that needs to continue. There will come a time when state will also start owning it, and will start funding it more, and then I think it will be normalized, and everyone will have access to it. So it should be
Absolutely.
covered like through insurance or something, because it is very expensive being a treatment, especially therapy. I think it's an expensive treatment, and not everyone can afford it. So if it's not available through government, it's very difficult to afford for a common man.
Absolutely agreed. And maybe the forums like yours and the online platforms that are helping people to understand their own emotional issues and traumas, and, heal actually from their emotional traumas. I'm really surprised to see, because even the reported cases of mental illness are quite significant. We're talking about the reported cases. Whereas, the unreported one must be, maybe 10 times more than that. So that is actually very challenging for all the mental health professionals. And there is also, I have seen a trend that people mistrust this, that psychologist or the psychiatrist. I mean, they're seeking help, or the therapist. They say they don't know much. I mean, they don't know. I mean, they have very false expectations. I don't know what kind of expectations that they have, that when they go to therapy, I mean, something, a magic wand will happen and they'll come out as a normal, happy human being. So how can they mitigate that?
So I think this is also again cultural, because they were not used to visiting a therapist. They used to go to that Amil Baba who would like prescribe something, and would take away all the anger and everything, right? So we don't do that, and this is the difference. Because if you like go to a psychologist, it would take a few sessions for you to start feeling better, and I think that is something that very few people would understand, and only those who understand actually get the help that they need. Plus, I think it is also considered like it's also considered a luxury in Pakistan that not everyone can go to therapy, but it is actually something that everyone needs. When I started working at the prison setting, I still know that on my first day, people told me that I have no place there and I can safely go back home because it's not something that can be done. So, but now with the passage of time, I now have like hundreds of clients that I see every day, and I think this developed over time. And when a service was there, people started using it because they don't didn't have to pay for it. So I think that is something that needs to happen. If it would come from a government side at some point, people would even start utilizing it, and they would find
Absolutely.
value in it.
Absolutely agreed on that. So tell us some, coping strategies if you're feeling angry, and then very aggressively if you are, feeling like punching somebody, or, banging a door, or, hurting yourself or anybody else. So let's start with anger. I mean, the mild anger. I mean, what are the good coping strategies that you stop there before it leads to aggression?
All right. So I think we begin with actually helping the client understand that what is their level of anger and aggression. So recognize it more so they have a good self understanding of what's going on inside them. Then, like in terms of coping strategies, like it could be like it's actually there's a wide range of coping strategies and exercises that we do with our clients that can help them manage their anger. So a simple one could be like if you have a paper like in front of you, you could simply press it with your fist, and I think that helps you. And also we help them channelize their anger. Like for instance, if someone really wants to hit a punch someone, right? So that person has this urge to punch, and he would usually go to hit someone on the face and would end up in trouble as well. So what we would do is to guide them to punch at a place where his hand is not hurt, and no one else gets hurt either. So it could be punching a pillow, right? So if that person punches a pillow, it's safe to do that. And at the same time, it also releases the anger that's or frustration that is there, right? So it is like these are the tactics that are used with clients, and also we help them write down what actually triggered their anger. So these exercises, they start developing the more self-awareness when they sort of practice these exercises, and they also start noticing that what are the things that trigger their anger. And also I think at the parenting level, so it can be actually managed through behavioral techniques. So the parents of today have more responsibility to learn all of these behavioral techniques while managing their children, because if they are more educated and they're more aware, I think they can take care of a lot of these things at their home as well. And I think every parent should know this, because these are the basics of behavioral techniques and should be used if a child gets aggressive. And I think obviously if a temper tantrum or if an anger outburst goes out of hand, then a professional help should also be sought.
Absolutely, and you have raised a very important issue here, that the parents needs to be aware that how to handle, because what I have seen is the deterioration of communication between parents and the children. I mean, the children. I conducted this research when I was opening up my company. So to begin with, I asked the question, where do you seek your help? I mean, from the university student. And can you imagine, 95% of them said that they seek help from when they are emotionally upset, they go with their friends and seek help. So then I asked them कि भी एक बेवकूफ दूसरे बेवकूफ को क्या समझाएगा, उसको खुद अपने मैनेज तो करने आता नहीं है, तो वो तुम्हें क्या समझाएगा. So this is where they go to drugs and risk taking behavior and reckless attitude. So what can we do? I mean, this is such a pandemic that parents are not close to their children. What their children are doing, most parents even are not aware of that. So how can they develop this bonding again?
So I think it's a very rigorous process that they will have to put in plenty of effort, and it has to be their priority, because obviously there should be nothing greater than this cause, right? A parent must have a better relationship with their child, and I think one of the parents at least should have this close bonding. And I think we can like they can begin by discussing their daily routines. Like if parents discuss the kids everyday routine from school, college, or university, I think they would start developing a lot of insight about what they do precisely. And I've seen like many kids who do not get a lot of adequate attention at their home. They are the kids who would actually go and commit a lot of crimes. They are also the kids who would like engage in this self-harm behavior and would engage in drugs. So all kind of risk-taking activities. And if the parents do not have like adequate knowledge, like what is their child doing right now, it becomes very difficult to manage as well. So I think as parents, they must have a better understanding of what their kids are doing. And I think it's a difficult process, but must be done, that every parent should get close to their child and start having this discussion about what is done like every day from day to day basis. That is where they get a hint if something is going wrong. And also I think if schools, colleges, universities, the kids do have teachers, and parents do go there like for parent teacher meeting every now and then, right? So teachers need to discuss these things with parents. They need to like communicate this, and parents obviously need to keep an eye if everything is needed. And I think it's a difficult job, but it's a very stressful job, parenting, but must be done well if we really want to raise a better generation.
Absolutely. Now, coming to this, aggressive behavior that we see, the road rage that we see, and the homicidal cases, like there was a very famous case in India where a woman was not only just, brutally murdered, and, she was taken advantage and all that. And then we see some gruesome killings in Pakistan as well. I mean, it's like you said, it's a very phenomenon, worldwide phenomena. How come these people become so cold hearted and commit such heinous crime, and nobody come to know what they were able to? I mean, it just can't be just one day a person can just wake up and go ahead and do the the most gruesome of the crime. So how can it happen, I mean, in the society?
I think again it has to do with personality issues. So I see people with psychopathic tendencies. Like, so there's this personality disorder called psychopathy. So if a person like suffers from this, that person is usually seen engaging in such kind of behaviors where the cruel part comes into play. Like killing someone is one thing, but killing someone like in a heinous manner, I think that is another thing. So these people usually have psychopathic tendencies, and it is very difficult to catch such people as well, like globally as well. When you see that people who were psychopaths, they were very difficult to catch unless until and unless they give up, like someday they wanted to get caught, because they are so intelligent, and they have so much above average intelligence skills and planning and everything. Like they actually think very precisely what they are doing, and they try their best to get away with it. Like very few people would know that they have done something, and it's again very hard to catch such people. But I think again it all starts from parenting, because if you like know your kid better, if you know how he or she responds, and at any point if he or she needs help or not, I think we can actually prevent a lot of these issues right from the childhood. And I think a lot of criminals who I've seen, like who had these psychopathic traits, I found something in their childhood that was not right. It was I would be almost certain that there would be something in the childhood that was not right with this person, that has ended him here, right? And with these psychopathic traits and everything. But again, it's also biological that people like inherit this. The twin set studies have shown that people who are twins, they are more likely, if one of them is engaged in criminal behavior, the other is also expected to engage in the criminal behavior. So I think it's also biological, but again, parenting has a very critical role in this.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And I don't know whether time went. I mean, it's such an interesting discussion, and I learned a lot of things. So, in the end, I mean, before you have seen the other side. What can you tell the youth or the people watching that if they don't control their anger or aggression, or that leads to the homicidal tendencies and land them in jail? I mean, what is it that you tell about the inmates and their regrets, that you would tell that if it's the past that you're treading, be careful where it leads to?
So yes, I think listen to a lot of people's regrets and from life when they are inside the jail. I came across someone who had been like in the jail for 30 plus years, and I think these are the people who, when you ask them, they tell you that they've even forgotten how the outside world looked like. So it's a huge punishment, and I think everyone, like, not it, you don't need to be a criminal to understand how isolation feels like, because in the COVID everyone has been to quarantine at least one time, I think. And that, I think, is a pretty similar period. Although you're sitting at the comfort of your home and you have got everything that you need, but that is still a difficult time to pass. Like 14 days were so hard, I still remember my time. So I think the similar is with prisons, and it is harder and it is tougher. So I think no one wants to go there. It's a bad place for anyone. And for kids, I think it's again be very mindful, because a few moments of anger outburst can land you some place like that, and where you never wanted to be. And once a person lands in that place where there are institute of criminals, right? There are a lot of people with criminal mindset. It's very difficult to come back from that world. Rehabilitation is a very long and difficult process. So I think we don't want to go there in the first place, and I think it can be prevented with adequate parenting and adequate support. And I think institutions have a role to play, because we see drugs are very common in universities, colleges, schools these days. And I think so everyone has their role in this, and but families especially, if adequate support system is there, I think we can prevent a lot of crime.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I really hope that people listening and whoever listens and read this interview in our upcoming magazine as well would pay heed that how important it is to have, a meaningful relationship. So in the end, what are the last words that would give our audience, to live with and to understand any, the crux of the talk or anything, any message that you would like to give our audience?
I think humans. So there's a concept of modeling. So when we were growing up, that I was told by my teacher that do not tell your children what to do, show them how to do it. So, right? So if a parent is engaged in some kind of behavior, the kids are also likely to follow that. No matter whether you teach that child or not, the kids are likely to model it. Similar is the case with our media, with our internet, the kind of consumption that our children are getting every day, like in terms of games. We have seen violent games getting very popular these days, such as PUBG, and right. So this is not the consumption that we want for our kids, right? This should not be their activities. They should like see more. I still remember when we were kids, our cartoons were very relaxing and I think very funny. But now the cartoons, the whole themes have changed. So I think this is the shift that is not healthy for our kids. And we all have a role. We need to watch out what our kids are looking at. And because this ultimately, as I said, that modeling has an important role, which kids learn from that. And if they see violence in any way, they are likely to replicate that at some point in their life. So it's not good to expose them to such violence. We need to watch out, and I think we need to have better institutions in terms of universities, and of course our families have a great role in this. So this whole ecosystem need to work together to have a safer society for everyone.
Absolutely, a great message that we cannot afford to normalize this or desensitize them to this violence. I mean, this is an absolute responsibility of the parents and the caretaker and the teachers and the media, that they should not, make this normalize such content, that aggressive behavior is okay, you look cool or something like that. So definitely, you're absolutely right that we should be investing in our relations and be kind and empathetic. And this is the world that we want to be, where everybody is connected to everybody. So thank you so much, Adil Ali, and it was wonderful talking to you. And definitely, we'll have further talks in regarding other topics that leads, and where we'll seek your expert opinion. And keep doing and keep rocking, and the work that you are doing, it's not easy. I mean, you have not chosen a very easy path for that. And it's definitely, but before I go, I mean, just want to ask you one thing. Did you ever feel scared, being in prison and with this hardcore criminals? Did you ever feel scared?
It's actually scary sometimes, but being professional, I think we have a job to do, and we do that regardless of the circumstances. And we make sure that we have adequate security in place. And I'm very cautious about it, that adequate security should be around whenever we are interacting with such people, and a safety practice is done. So I think we have adopted this within our practices, that we do it safely. We try to do it safely.
I wish you, luck and safety, and we need people like you who are doing wonderful work. So have an, great day ahead, and week ahead. And thank you so much once again for coming. And Allah Hafiz.
Thank you, Dr. Faryal. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.